Okay, I am going to go over the RTI Tracking Sheet template. That would be the template that's all filled out if we decide, or the team decides that student needs to go on for a referral. But it's also to help us track how they're growing and if our interventions are working and how much they're getting to be accountable to that child. So very first thing is the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So Tier 1 is whole class grade instruction and testing. It's on the standards, the grade level standards. So if you're in fourth grade, it's their fourth grade standards, fifth grade, and so forth. But that's what you do every day when you're teaching, say, 3-digit divided by 1-digit number. So this is where in the Tier 1, you would pick your math topic. So it would be division of a dividend with 3 numbers and a divisor with 1. And you give the test score and the date. Same with reading. You would put your topic. These are all falling under Tier 1. You'd put your topic. Now you're going to probably have to add in rows. Okay, so this is just for the student you're tracking, not for all of your students. This is just for your student you're tracking. That's a struggling student that has gone into the RTI process. So Tier 2 data is reteaching in smaller groups the topic they did not master from Tier 1 grade level material. Then retesting on the topic and tracking the scores to see if Tier 2 was successful for them. So this is where after you teach them in flex and intervention, or maybe you're just pulling them every day for 5 minutes at the back table, anything you are taking extra time to help them relearn that topic, then you would track it here in the 2, and then you retest. This is where their retest score goes, okay? So the first tab is only for testing and retesting scores. That's it, okay? So we can track it. Over here on this data is where you're tracking just Tier 2 intervention tracker. So here it is, the division topic that they took, didn't pass it, so now they're in intervention. And in your intervention with small groups, reteaching that grade level concept that they're not mastering. So here you would put the topic, so it would be division of fractions, and you might have 5 lines on that because you might be intervening for half an hour for 5 days. So just go ahead and just add all the lines you need to. So then you would have to add in more rows. Obviously this is going to be a really long sheet if you're doing, extensive tracking. But you put the intervention use. It might be reteaching, real explicit instruction, broke down the steps, only taught step 1 of division, or went back to division, teaching how, with manipulatives, how we break and distribute out a number. Those kind of things you would put there in intervention used. Put the amount of minutes you did it, and whether put small group or 1-to-1 in this column right here, so that we know what they're getting, the date you did it, and the teacher doing it. Because some of our interventions are mixed up, and so where we're team teaching more, it might be Mrs. Mink, it might be Miss Walker, so both of you would be tracking on this sheet. The same for reading. Right here, you do the same thing for reading. So maybe you're finding character traits of a character and how the setting has influenced the character trait. I don't know. So whatever that standard is, you would put their intervention used for Tier 2, maybe reteaching and going over smaller stories, those kinds of things. And then I need to add this. This column needs to look like this column, and it will. Sorry, I didn't do it down there. And then Tier 3 intervention, when those get going. This is right now happening with our dyslexia training because that is filling in holes from previous years. So then we need to have that documented what they're getting in that training. And then the intervention, and then their retesting. I'd imagine they'd retest probably quarterly. It's what I don't know what their retesting rate is, but then that would be documented here also. Then the ISIP data is right here. So your ISIP math scores, date, and are they meeting growth? So your very first baseline, you're not going to fill that in. So September's wouldn't be filled in, but October's would be the date you took it, and are they meeting growth, yes or no? Just put yes or no. Again, you'll probably have to add rows to get everything in for the ISIP score and reading ISIP. So that is how you use this sheet. Now let me show you when I'm going to be pushing out. This is just to carry around on a clipboard or whatever, so you don't have to be at your computer. This is a nice form. Maybe you're tracking 2 people in your class. And so maybe I had a few minutes and they were AR reading, and I pulled 2 of my kids that didn't pass their division of instruction and were doing intervention, but I just want to spend some one-on-one 5 minutes with them. So you would write that down here and initial it. And then this sheet is going to be easily, there we go, easily transferred to this sheet where your intervention tracker, where everyone can see, and we can make graphs and all that kind of stuff from this tracking. So this tracking would be shared if they go on and need further testing. This would go to whoever's doing that if they're just not making growth. But most of the time, probably 90% of your students will make growth in that tier 2 intervention, and that will really help them. And then the small amount will need to go on. It's probably 95% actually, and then a small amount will need to go on to figure out why they're not making growth with further testing to figure it out. So as we track this is just the tracking sheet. Remember, the first tab is for test scores. This is tier 1 is for your grade topic test scores, reading topic test scores. Tier 2, your intervention and your retesting on the scores that they didn't pass in tier 1. So you're retesting them. Those are those scores. Tier 3 data is for usually pull out from someone other than the classroom teacher, usually where they're doing a dyslexia program or they're doing a math program where they're learning number sense, filling in holes from 2nd, 3rd grade that they just didn't quite grasp those concepts, to help support the concepts they're learning now and seeing if they're seeing growth in that tier 3. So classroom teachers, your focus is tier 1, tier 2. We really need that data. We'll work on tier 3 and where that's going to look, but for right now, just focus on tier 1 and tier 2. And so if you get one of these sheets, we're starting to identify kids, and the first ones coming out are for math. They've been identified by Mrs. Odette, who's done testing on them, and these kids are going to be sent out first. And then we'll have further discussion on which ones, who more we need to track. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, just find an RTI member or me or Chrissy or Shelly is on the team. And so if you have any questions at all, please don't, and Jessica Millar. So if you have any questions at all, find one of us, and hopefully we can make it easier. Hopefully this sheet makes it easier that we can kind of have it broke up with testing on one page, interventions used, and ISIP data. And then we can kind of look at what interventions and look at that as a whole, ISIP data as a whole, and their tests and retests as a whole. So I will be pushing these out, and you can look it over if you have someone, and we can start tracking them. I know there's some concerns for some kids, and so we want to make sure that we're identifying them and tracking them and giving them the supports they need. All right, thank you.